you all so much for being here today. The show's about to begin. If you could just keep your cell phones on silence, and we'll get started. Before we begin, there's a few people that I'd like to thank. In addition to all of you for being here today, thank you very much to Kimball Jenkins for hosting us here at this event. And I also want to thank all of our sponsors who made this concert possible, and especially our platinum sponsors, Firefly, Crystal, and Tarot, and Capital Copy. First we're going to talk about composer Clara Schumann. She was born in Leipzig, Germany, to a very musical family. Her father, Friedrich, was a piano teacher and music shop owner, and her mother, Marianne, was actually a pupil of her father, and she was incredibly talented. She was a singer at the esteemed Gewandhaus Theater and a piano player, and she actually helped launch her husband's career because of this. Sadly, her mom was unable to remain in her life for long, as her father, Friedrich, was very abusive and controlling. When she was pregnant, he made her play piano for long hours, and she was working and taking care of the house. She just couldn't handle it anymore. So she ended up being forced to leave him, and she took Clara with her originally, but the German law forced her to bring Clara back to her father at age 5. So it was at age 5 that Clara began rigorous musical studies with her father in piano and composition. Now, though he was somewhat of a tyrant, she actually did enjoy these lessons with him. She actually did love him very much. She became a child prodigy and made her debut at the Gewandhaus Theater at age 11. And while women were generally discouraged from composing, one good thing he did do was he encouraged her to compose, and she actually performed many of her original compositions during concert tours. At age 13, she began composing her famous piano concerto in A minor, and she premiered this at the age of 16 with the Gewandhaus Orchestra, and Felix Mendelssohn conducted, which is pretty amazing feat, especially for a young woman during this time, let alone really anyone. She was the first pianist to play full concerts from memory, and she was considered an equal among the greatest pianists of her time during a time when this was a male-dominated field. So it's believed around age 16 that she began a romantic relationship with one of her father's pupils, Robert Schumann. When Clara and Robert pleaded with her father to marry, he not only started a legal battle, but he threatened to kill Robert and to also take away all of Clara's possessions, including her piano, and have her pay all the money she earned on concert tours to her brothers. He went as far as to try to sabotage her career by supporting one of her rivals, even. So there was a long legal battle, and it was German law that she needed her father's consent to marry. But she finally was able to marry Robert the day before her 21st birthday. Without her father, she was forced to become her own manager and tour by herself throughout Europe to earn a living. Despite her incredible talent and joy for composing, she, like many humans, struggled with insecurity around her abilities to compose, even though she was incredible. But Robert, her husband, did encourage her. And this is so cute, they actually kept a joint marriage diary together and wrote to each other. And along with that, they composed songs for one another. And they set 12 songs to poetry by Friedrich Rückert. And Clara composed 3 of those songs in the cycle, and I'm going to sing for you 2 of them today. Robert and Clara had 8 children together. Sadly, though, their marriage bliss did not last for long. Robert struggled with his mental health, and he was eventually admitted to a hospital after throwing himself in the Rhine River. He spent the rest of his years in the hospital where he eventually died. Clara was only 35 years old when she became a widow. After Robert's death, she continued her career concert touring as one of the top piano virtuosos of her time and teaching to provide for herself and for her 8 kids. Superwoman, right? Her career lasted over 6 decades. She gave her last public performance at age 71 and lived to age 76. After Robert's death, she continued to spread his music during concert tours and publish his works. He was not famous during his lifetime, but he did become famous in hers, and that is largely because of her. And he is now known today as one of the greatest composers in history. Clara's music, though, is equally as great, and I'm just super excited to share her music with you today. And I'll have translations on the screen for each song.
Das ist ein Tag der Regenwag. Die Wacht erschreckt im Korn, die Reche jauchzen mit Jubelschlag voll eben hellen grünen Hack. Der Jäger bläst ins Horn. Frau Nachtigall auf süßen Schal, durchs Laub ein Fließen zieht. Das Echo tönt im Wind. sich entgegen. Ist gekommen in Sturm und Regen, ist gekommen in Sturm und Regen. Und ist gekommen das Frühlingssegen. Der Freund sieht weite, ich seh es weite, denn bleibt meiner vollen Wegen, denn bleibt meiner vollen Wegen. Nun ist gekommen des Frühlingssegen, der Freund sieht weite, ich seh es weite, denn bleibt meiner vollen Wegen. Liebst du arme Schönheit, o nicht mich liebe, liebe die Sonne, sie trägt ein goldenes Haar. Liebst du Jugend, o nicht mich liebe, liebe den Frühling. Der Jung ist jedes Jahr. Liebst du Schätze, o nicht mich liebe, liebe die Meerfrei, sie hat Wilhelm klar. Liebst du Liebe, o ja, mich liebe, liebst du Liebe, o ja, mich liebe, liebe mich immer, dich lieb ich immer doch.
So next we have Pauline Viardot, and she was actually one of Clara Schumann's best friends. She was born in 1821 in Paris, France, and she was being born from the renowned Garcia family. It is no surprise that she would become one of the most influential women of the 19th century European art scene. Her parents were both from Spain. Her mother, Maria, was a singer and dancer, and her father, Manuel, was a famous tenor, composer, and music teacher. And actually, her brother, Manuel Garcia Jr., was a famous vocal pedagogue known for his groundbreaking research in voice science and is considered the father of voice science. Her older sister, Maria Malibran, was an opera sensation. She was kind of like, like the Taylor Swift of her time, or Beyonce. So Pauline began her earliest musical studies with her father, and as she progressed, she eventually studied piano with the guy up there on the right, Franz Liszt, and she had a huge crush on him. And she studied composition with Anton Reicha. She was originally trained to be a concert pianist. By the age of 8, she was so advanced that she was actually able to accompany all of her father's voice students on the piano while he taught them. When she was only 11 years old, her father sadly died, and she was 15 when her sister Maria also sadly died from a horseback riding accident. And it was then after the death of her sister that her mother said that her mother took over her musical training, and she told her she has to be a singer. And Pauline really wanted to be a concert pianist, but she listened to her mom and she pursued a career to follow in her sister's footsteps. Only a year after her sister died, she made her concert debut in Brussels, and in just a few years, she was also like the next Taylor Swift of her day. Like, she was super famous, like everyone knew who she was. And she was also a socialite. She was fluent in Spanish, French, German, Italian, English, and Russian. She seemed to know and get along with just about everyone who was prominent during her time, and held musical salons in her home where musicians, artists, and literary figures would gather. She also helped inspire and launch the careers of many of the greatest artists of her day. And many composers were so inspired by her voice that they wrote music for her voice. She was also close friends with French novelist, feminist novelist George Sand. Oh, here we go. And she was so inspired by Pauline that she based the main character in her novel, Consuelo, on her. So if you ever read it and want to get an idea of what Pauline was like. When she was 22 years old, she made her operatic debut in Russia, and after immersing herself in the culture, she played a significant role in introducing Russian music to Western Europe. And while she was there, she befriended many literary figures, including the famous Russian writer Ivan Turgenev, and they became like best friends. Their friendship spanned 40 years, and he became close friends with her family, with her husband. Even though he did admit to being in love with her, her husband didn't seem to mind him like living with them at times. Interesting. You never really know, like with history, like what actually happened. But yeah. So Pauline and Turgenev were both really inspired by each other artistically. Pauline set several of his poems to music, and he also wrote the libretti for some of her operas, and he also took advice from her with his work, and much of it was inspired by her. And these were the people I was talking about. The top is her husband, and the bottom is Turgenev. So her operatic career spanned a total of 24 years. And she actually sang just about everything, which was pretty remarkable. She sang everything from contralto to soprano roles, which was pretty astounding. When she retired, she focused her energy on composing and teaching voice, and she composed over 100 vocal compositions, 5 operas, and 15 instrumental works. She lived to 88, and she died in Paris in 1910.
chante ta guitare là. Petite la 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 la, tu chantes ta guitare là. Mais qu'il derrière la branche, ça te finira de blanche, que doucement vers moi descend. Il cette blanche fumée, c'est l'adieu de mon bien-aimé. L'adieu d'amour qui s'élève à la fin du jour. Adieu de côte vert farouche, au travers de mes doigts ma bouche, dans ce réveil la paix l'envers. Déjà la nuit vient sur la lande, ratas au bout vache gourmande. Ah la 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 ya, la 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 la, oh la la, ah la 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 ya, adieu donc ma petite Anna. Oh la 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 ya, la la, ah la 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 ya, adieu donc ma petite Anna. Madrid, presse ses Espagnes. Il court par des mille campagnes, pieds des yeux bleus, pieds des yeux noirs. La blanche ville sérénade, il passe par des promenades, bien de petits pieds tous les soirs. Madrid, côté ta romanise, bien des mes blanches applaudissent, bien des écharpes sautagées, par des belles nuits étoilées, bien des seigneurs l'envolées, des soirs de tes escaliers bleus. Madrid, Madrid, moi je me raille de tes dames à fine taille qui chaussent les scarpes étoiles. Car je suis aimé par le monde, que je m'énibrerai ni blonde, n'avril le bout de sa doigt. Car si m'adresse son dalose, mon précieux
a brief 5-minute pause if you need to stretch, use the restroom, and then we have the wonderful Jane here from Jane runs Thrive Survivor Support Center. She's just going to give a brief talk about the organization. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think this is my time to give a few words. First of all, what I'd like to do is give a few words of thanks to Melissa and to Kathy and to Kimball Jenkins and to all the sponsors. My name is Jane Berlin-Pauley. I don't run the whole organization, thankfully. I do development work with Thrive Survivor Support Center, formerly the Crisis Center of Central New Hampshire. It's a lot of C's. We have been around since 1978, and I would like to put a caveat in there, unfortunately, because there's been a need since before 1978. And there continues to be a need. And we are proud to serve survivors in Merrimack County. We have a shelter for families and individuals who need to seek safety. We have a 24 hours, 7 days a week hotline that is a text or call that are staffed by direct service folks. We do education programs in the schools as much as we are able to do that at this moment. And we unfortunately served about 450 people in Concord alone on average over the past 3 years. So it is very present in our communities right now. And I have to admit, I was on the board prior to working with Thrive, and I didn't know it was that prevalent. So events like these, raising awareness, people coming together to listen to beautiful music from women composers, and then giving back to women, men, and families in need who have experienced sexual and domestic violence is incredible. And the thing I want to say lastly is that my other hat is that I'm a voice teacher at Concord Community Music School. So for me, when Melissa reached out to me to say, hey, I'd like to do this, I thought, well, this is kismet. Everyone, my worlds are coming together, so it's wonderful. I work with Kathy all the time and Steve. So, and I already asked, and she said I was able to say and not let the cat out of the bag prematurely, but Melissa's going to be joining the Concord Community Music School on our vocal faculty, which I'm thrilled about. I'm so excited. So a big thank you to everyone who put this together, and for all of you for coming and for your support. Really appreciate it, and this is what makes Concord and the surroundings such a great community, because there's so much overlap, and I see people in the audience who I know have supported the music school and Thrive and Kimball Jenkins, and it's wonderful, and my daughter works at the co-op, and so we're just highly intertwined here. So thank you all very much. Melissa and Kathy, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited to hear the second half of this concert, and I'm so excited we're getting a contralto.
Thank you so much, Jane. The work you do with Thrive is just wonderful. And I didn't know your daughter worked at the co-op. Hers at the co-op? Oh my goodness, what a small world. Our next composer is Augusta Holmès. She was born in Paris, France, of parents who were of Irish and Scottish heritage. Both of her parents were really heavily involved in the arts. Her father was really into literature and had a huge library. Her mother was a prominent poet and artist, and They were also wonderful friends with Alfred de Vigny, who was so close to the family that he became kind of like her godfather. Growing up in Versailles, she spent her childhood writing, reading, painting, and enjoying nature. Her parents encouraged her to do all the involvement in the arts except for music. Her mom she didn't let her. When she was 11, her mother passed away, and her father finally got her a piano and allowed her to begin her musical studies. So she took private lessons in piano, clarinet, voice, harmony, fugue, and counterpoint. And I should also note that she had a much later start than her male colleagues. And so it's really remarkable what she achieved in her late start and her short life. She attended all the musical salons of the day and befriended the most prominent artistic and literary figures of her time. And she was highly regarded for her beautiful voice, her virtuoso piano playing, and she was also a striking beauty and a muse to many. I'll just give one example, but I talk about this more on another concert program, but there were lots of people inspired by her, I'll just say. So after her first meeting with the artist Henri Regnault, he was so inspired by her beauty that he was able to get over his creative block and finish painting, visualize painting Thetis in his painting of Thetis and Achilles. I just love this picture because there aren't any pictures of her when she was younger, so it kind of gives you an idea of what she may have looked like, because I'm always just curious. Her and her father were huge supporters of Wagner and would eventually join his social circle. She was really inspired by his music and very influenced by him. She wanted to create a whole experience for the audience, just like he did. And she actually wrote just about, for everything she composed, just about all of the poetry. She was an excellent writer. And all the songs that you're going to hear today have poetry also written by her. It's believed that around 1868, she met her lover, Catulle Mondes. He was the famous Parnassian writer and music critic. And it's believed around that time they became lovers. They had a total of 5 children together. And you can get an idea of what they looked like here. This beautiful painting of her 3 daughters was painted by Renoir. And you might wonder, why does it say the daughters of Catulle Mondes and it doesn't put her name? It is because she never actually publicly acknowledged her children, nor did she marry him. Because if she were to do that, she would lose all the freedom, many of the freedoms that she had being an unmarried woman during her time. Her children, but she was still in contact with them, and from what I understand, a very loving mother. Her children took the name of Catulle's widowed father, and when her own father died, she inherited his money and house, and that's how she was able to maintain her independence and follow her career. And this was not the norm for a woman of her time. It's believed around 1875 she began composition studies with César Franck, who was also in love with her, but that's a whole nother story. During this time, her compositional style started evolving. She began writing these massive works and entering into competitions. Now, during this time period, that was kind of something that women were told not to do. To write large-scale works was not the norm for a woman of her time. In 1878, she entered her first competition, and she won second place. And in 1880, she entered her second competition, and the 9 musicians on the board voted for her to get first place, but 2 city officials did not. And it's believed that, of course, it was due to her being a woman. And though it wasn't great that that happened, it was actually a good thing for her because it caused so much scandal that it actually helped further her career. And in 1889, she received a commission to write the Ode Triomphale for Paris's World's Fair, commemorating the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution. This work was so big that it required 1,200 musicians. What I would give to hear that performed. I would like, can we set something? Just kidding. During her short life of 56 years, let me make sure we're on. Okay. During her short life of 56 years, she composed 130 songs, many large-scale works, symphonic works, opera, and choral works. Towards the end of her life, though, she did go through a series of big hardships. Catulle ended their 20-year romantic relationship and left her for a younger woman shortly after the death of their son. We don't actually know why, but somehow she ended up penniless. It's kind of unknown why. Her opera, La Montagne Noire, was considered a failure because it only ran for 11 performances, but research by musicologist Dr. Anastasia Bellina Johnson uncovered the possible reason for that. As one reviewer of the opera stated, we should not allow women composers into our opera houses and concert halls. Despite all of her hardship, she remained hopeful, and she turned to religion, I think, to help her get through her struggles. In 1901, after having been friends with a Catholic priest for some time, she converted to Catholicism. She added the name Patricia, the Catholic name Patricia, to her name, and it was said that she was always, just throughout her life, whether it was at church or before that, she was just always fascinated by the mystical and looking for something greater than herself. It's said that she wore an amethyst ring, and that if the stone ever fell out, she would know it would be her last days on earth. So this is really weird. The stone fell out the first few days of January in 1903, and then soon after, she suffered a heart attack, dying on January 28th. And that's me at her grave site in Versailles. You can actually go see her, and yes, I did cry. I had my sunglasses on, luckily, so no one could tell. But I was so happy to be that close to her because she's so amazing. So next we have Amy Beach, who was actually born right here in New Hampshire. She was born in Henniker, New Hampshire, and she just showed a remarkable talent at a young age. Age 1, before she could even speak, she could sing 40 melodies. By age 2, she harmonized the alto lines to her mother's melodies. By age 3, she taught herself how to read. And she was really drawn to play the piano when she was a toddler, but her mother, who was very religious, wouldn't allow her to. Her family was very religious, and part of their beliefs were that children should be kept away from what they desired most and to be taught discipline and submission. Kind of silly, but society's view at the time was also that girls were fragile and it was important to be humble and submissive. Only private music making was encouraged to entertain guests and attract a husband, of course. The woman's role was to be a wife, a mother, and to take care of the house. At age 4, with her aunt's intervention, Amy's mother finally allowed her to play piano. At age 7, she gave her first public performance. By age 16, she was a distinguished pianist and made a successful debut with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. 2 years later, she married a wealthy doctor named Henry Beach. It was considered really improper at the time for a woman to make more than her husband and to perform alone. So he made her agree to only do 2 public performances a year and then donate any money to charity. This is when Amy, and lucky for us, Amy directed her focus to composing, so now we have her beautiful compositions. But not cool that he didn't let her perform, of course. Like Augusta Holmès, she became famous for performing really large-scale works. In 1896, she premiered her Gaelic symphony with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. She became the first woman to publish a symphony. Go New Hampshire. Though her work was successful, some male critics called it overly virile. When Amy Beach's husband died in 1910 and then her mother in 1911, she was finally able to perform as much as she wanted without restriction, and she was also able to perform in Europe for the first time. She spent the rest of her life performing, composing, and teaching, and she composed more than 100 songs, an opera, various pieces of chamber music, choral, and orchestral music. She died in 1944 and was buried in the Forest Hills Cemetery, actually right in Jamaica Plain, Massachusetts, so you can actually go visit her if you wanted to.
And the world
So next we have Dame Ethel Smyth, who was born in England. She took lessons in harmony growing up, and when she turned 18 and expressed her desire to her father that she wanted to study music professionally, he told her no. But she, being this tough woman that she was, she put up a fight by staying in her room for days, and her father finally gave in. Like Augusta Holmès and Amy Beach, she composed really large-scale works. Her opera Der Wald was the first opera to be composed by a woman performed at the Metropolitan Opera House, and remained the only one for a century. She helped pave the way for women in other ways too. While the women of her time were expected to be private, fragile, and modest, she wrote and published volumes of memoirs about her life. In 1910, she became involved with the suffrage campaign. She was imprisoned in Holloway Prison for 2 months, actually, after being arrested for throwing stones at the houses of suffrage opponents. She composed the song, The March of the Women, which would become the anthem of the movement that she and many women sang in jail during rallies. While she was in prison, she famously actually conducted it from her cell window using a toothbrush as the baton. In 1922, she was the first female composer to be awarded a damehood, and she received an honorary doctorate in music from the Universities of Durham and Oxford. She died in 1944 at the age of 86. Now, this next song is not going to be sung by me, but I have invited some wonderful young soloists to come. So, are there any singers in the audience? So, I have invited some wonderful soloists to come. You can come on stage. And they are going to demonstrate the first four verses and show you how it goes. And then after that, I'd like to invite everyone, if you'd like, to stand and sing the next four verses with us. And the sheet music is in your program.